Oh, there we go. Welcome to the Military Retirement Podcast. We're just waiting on John to jump on here. He had a couple things going on, but holy crap, man, the week has been something else. A lot of news coming out, a lot of changes coming out. And let's see. First off, I wanted to touch on this one piece here. It's let me share the screen here. John, welcome aboard. You hear me? Am I on? Test, test. Good. Okay, not yet. All right. Wanted to share this piece right here. So I came across this thing. I was just looking, I read Navy Times, Marine Times, and all that good stuff. And I came across this one article. Thousands of sailors get access to trendy weight loss app in a new deal. Okay. So this is pretty. I just to give you some context, I jumped on this. I tried to. I'm not in the Navy. I'm not active duty anymore, but I try to get on this and see if it would work for me, right? Why not, right? So like a weight management, weight loss app, whatever. As we get older in age, I kind of want to explore that stuff. So came across that, and so this is a contract with Noom. All right, Noom is this, I guess, a weight loss or some kind of weight management app. It has to do something with Navy sailors and folks who are on the weight management program or something like that. So the Navy has a contract with Noom. Noom, it's a 1 year pilot program. It's worth about $466,000, and it's paid for by excess funds released by Congress last fiscal year for quality of service initiatives. So when I looked at this, it's pretty cool, right? And as far as I know, it's only for the Navy. It's not for the Marine Corps or anything like that. But when I looked at this thing normally retails for about $209 a year, and I've heard about it. I was considering it, right? But then I thought, a lot of these folks. I mean, it's for a BCP thing or a body composition program thing. It's not available for the Marines or Air Force or anything like that. I wonder if they're going to jump on it at some time. Uh, I hope folks take advantage of it because I know a lot of folks who are on body composition programs that just kind of go through the motions of it. They got to do the weigh-ins every week and all that stuff. So I hope folks take advantage of it because it is a pretty good deal. So let me see what we got here. All right. So it says, as of February 1st, the Navy is offering the commercial version of Noom free for a year for these sailors in what the service calls its fitness enhancement program. Okay. What is that even? Check it out. Navy updates exercise standards for fitness enhancement program. I've heard of this too. Like it's I guess the Secretary of Defense is trying to up the standards or streamline that across the board for all services. And during my time, I've seen it kind of shift a little bit. Um, I was in the Marine Corps, and then they came out with like they shifted times uh, for run times, pull up time or pull ups. Then they shifted to, hey, good morning, Navy cop, good morning. They shifted a lot of stuff, right? And then they made like the women's side, and they made the male side. So I don't know how this is going to work out, but it says the Navy will not require some sailors to undergo fitness enhancement program if they do not pass the Navy's composition assessment portion of the physical fitness assessment. I'm not sure what that consists of. Let's see. We got Navy cop up here. FEP is Navy's fat camp for non-proper term. Yeah. Hey, in the Marine Corps, it's the body composition program, the BCP, or back in boot camp, they used to call it like the pork chop platoon or something like that, PCP, um, for lack of a better term. John, you're online.
I am online finally. I was
All
having
right.
some issues, having some troubles, and trying to get some things figured out. But I think I'm back online.
No worries, man. No worries. Yeah, I can hear you perfectly, man. Yeah, I was just talking about this app here, the Noom app. right? So it says, I just came across this. I was looking at like workouts online and I'm like, what? And this thing popped up. Like the Navy has come into a contract with Noom and they're going to be providing thousands of sailors who are on their version of the body composition program um, access to this app, which is about a 400, almost $500,000 contract per year. They used last year's funds, um, and essentially, it's a weight loss app. And I myself tried to get on this thing. Like they had the link, right? I was like, hey, let me try it out. Let me see if me having a .mil address allows me access to get this Noom thing. And of course, it didn't work because you have to go through like I don't know, an ID.me, or you have to put your EDIPI number in there. Of
Yeah.
course, register me. So I'm like, whatever. It's like $200 a year to jump on
What's
this
the
app.
name of the app called?
Noom, Noom.
NOOM.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's they're coming out with this whole standard stuff, right? The Secretary of Defense kind of trickled this thing down from the top down, saying all services will be within some kind of standard. There will be no more uh, female and male differences in standards. Which I get, right? If you're in combat or something like that, and you have somebody next to you, they should be able to, at least in the Marine Corps, you're supposed to like buddy carry these folks, right? Put them on your shoulder within 10 pounds or something like that. You want to know that the person to the left and right of you can uh, complete these tasks, right? I mean, I don't
Right.
expect. I'm me myself. I'm 230 pounds. I don't expect a 150-pound person to carry me. Would be cool, but get everybody across the board into some kind of the same standards. So, I mean, you as well as I know that, during our time in, standards have kind of gotten a little relaxed. You can walk around any base and see that. So hopefully this is like step one into getting everybody on board with just getting their fitness in check. We are the America's elite fighting force. At least that's what they say about the Marine Corps. I'm sure that this different services have their titles, but we want to show that too. We want to be in some kind of standard.
Yeah, I saw the other day, I think it was maybe last week, they had I guess it's the semi-annual fitness test that they do for the Navy. I
Mhm.
don't know how the Navy does things, and maybe
Yep.
Navy cop can chime in and let me know, but I'm guessing it was like a semi-annual, like springtime, and then maybe in the fall or something like that they do it.
Yep.
Um, Tons and tons of people. I was trying to figure out what was going on at first because I saw tons of people like going over to the softball fields and they had the spot walled off and everybody was getting ready to do their tests. But yeah, I walk around Navy base all day long, pretty much
Mhm.
every single day, and there's generally 2 or 3 types of people that I see, Navy standards wise, as far as body composition and also grooming standards and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then you can combine 1 or 2 of these 3 things. It's usually generally like folks that are just ripped, like they go to the gym every single day, they're out running every
Right.
day, they're running around the base without, a t-shirt. The guys running around the base without a t-shirt on.
Mhm.
The girls running around with, minimal top and bottom, trying to stay cool mainly. I mean, if you're working out that hard, you're trying to stay cool. That's the main thing.
Right.
And then I see the other half of that spectrum, which is, I wouldn't say super overweight, but they're definitely pushing the scales. I would say that. And then you've
Yeah.
got on the grooming standard side, you've got, I guess, two versions of that. Ones that are like super clean cut. Even for the females, a lot of the females nowadays that I see are getting like the almost a skin fade, and then having a little bit more hair on top.
Mm.
And then the other side of that coin is the folks who have a lot longer hair on top, and they're actually growing out beards and like full beards.
Yeah, that's
So
something new, man. Like I've not seen that ever in my my time in. I mean, shit, I just retired in December 2023. I've
Right.
never seen that. That's something new. And I know that they had it for like the razor bumps. I
Yep,
know a
shoulder
lot. I
probe.
had Marines that, yeah, I had Marines that had that as well. And it's
Mhm.
at one point you could ask them, hey, let me see your light duty thing, your light duty chit. If you see somebody with like facial hair, um, and then they stop that. They're like, hey, you can't ask people for that because it's covered under HIPAA. I'm like, okay, well, got it, right?
Right.
But I mean, you can see people have razor bumps, right? I mean, at one point I had a couple here on my neck, and it wasn't bad enough to get like a light duty thing, right? So wasn't too worried about it. But that whole beard thing, man, like even working on not really on the Marine base, but when I was working on the Navy base, I was like, I'm walking through the exchange, the Navy exchange, and I'm looking, I'm like, what the fuck? What's going on here? Because I'm just not used to it. I'm just not used to it, right? And
Yep.
so badly do I want. I mean, the Marine in me so badly wants to just go up to people and be like, "Hey, like, come here, let me talk to you real quick. What
Right.
the hell is that trash on your face?" But that's not me anymore. I can't do that anymore, right?
Well, you also want to
But yeah,
appreciate the fact that you can walk across the grass and not get screamed at. So
yes. So I mean, I will do that across a sergeant major's office any day these days.
I think Navy folks are more prone to facial hair, at least a pretty decent amount of men that I see walking around have the mustache, like the full mustache, and it seems like it's a Navy thing. Like I didn't notice it as much in the Army, but in the Navy, I notice it a lot. Like I can literally spot people downtown who are Americans by just the way their haircut and their mustache is grown out.
Yeah. So we got Navy cop. That is correct. Not sure the current standards, and they have been really relaxed in the last few years. A large part of my job as master at arms was enforcing standards. Yeah, I get that, man. So it's funny. So when I was younger, they had the corporal's course, kind of like the NCO course, right? And they had the corporal's course. And at one point, I was walking into the exchange, and I was probably maybe a staff sergeant at the time. And I was walking to the exchange, and I saw a bunch of these corporals standing outside, and they were just correcting people. That was their
Yep.
job. That was their assignment, I guess. At that point, they're
Hall
like, "Hey,
mongers.
yeah, exactly." Like outside of the exchange, especially during like lunchtime, the chow times, they're standing outside. They're like, "Hey, your cover's on wrong. Come here. This thing is," and they have rulers and stuff. Your ranks are off a little bit. Come here. They're just correcting people left and right. And I stop and I'm like, "Hey, what is this? What's all this about?" Like, "Oh, it's part of the corporal's course curriculum. We have to go out there and actually interact with people and correct them. These younger folks or their own peers or people of younger rank, or even tactfully do that to senior officers or enlisted."
Yep.
And I thought it was, I thought it was funny. I was like, okay, well, I've never seen that before, but um, I'm glad they were doing that because it kind of keeps uniformity across the ranks, right? How many times was I a younger Marine? I would approach maybe like a major, and I'm like, "Hey, sir, this is off." They're like, "Hey, yeah, I got it," and they just continued on about the day, just kind of brushed me off.
Right.
Um, but it's whatever. I thought it was pretty cool that they were doing that. I've always been one to kind of adhere to customs and courtesies and standards and stuff like that because if it's expected of me, I would expect it of other people, right? But just walking through the exchange now, I'm like, what the fuck? What's going on with what has changed? And they haven't updated the standards. It's still like the
No.
uniform regulations are still up. They're still there. It's just the leadership is not coming down on these people, or maybe they're afraid to. I don't know. Yeah, mustaches are a form of here. Let me share that here. Mustaches are a form of fighting against facial hair ban, which is primarily for allowing fit of the oxygen masks underway for emergency escape and firefighting. Yep, can't see the mask. It's an issue. Yeah, I agree. Before I had retired, maybe a couple years before, I grew out a mustache, and then my CO freaking hated it. And I didn't care. I was like, it's within standards, right? You can't have it past the lips or whatever.
Yep.
Um, it, but I was going to be in a ceremony at some point, and like, yeah, you get to be clean shaven. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm within regulations there, sir. So, plus I'm a chief warrant officer, so I do what I want.
Do whatever the hell I want. There's that.
Oh man, there's that
Yeah.
too. So,
Oh man,
that's funny.
yeah, that's why I said the mustache thing, especially in the Navy. The mustache thing, their mustaches are pretty burly. I would have to say
Yeah,
for most of them, and their hair
yeah.
grooming standards. I mean, they keep it pretty short on the sides, but on the top, they definitely grow it out a lot longer. And I don't really,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't see a problem with it. Like we have spec ops folks out there, operators who are
Hmm.
operating in the special operations like realm.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, like they have a completely different grooming standard, and maybe it's because they're special ops and they have to do special missions and they have to be very covert about things. I got it, but is it really hurting the actual mission of war fighting? Right. That's kind of my litmus test for it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not hurting the war fighting mission, because we used to when you first came in. I don't know if you had the shine boots. I think we talked about this with Omar.
No. I missed
But
that portion of it.
yeah, so we had
Did not
shine
have
boots,
to.
we had starched uniforms and stuff like that, and that was like the standard that we would carry out into the field exercises, right? Like literally.
Mhm.
And so at some point it was a little bit ridiculous to think that you're gonna, I mean, I guess not directly, but if you had to do like say like a board for a E5 board or something like that out in the field, they would still hold the boards in the field. You would have to come in with a pressed uniform. You'd have to have starch boots. Starch
Right.
uniform, press and shine boots. And I just found it a little bit excessive because of the fact that we were in a field environment. I understand you got to come in there looking fresh and looking good, but you're also been working like 12-hour, 15-hour days
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
last 3 or 4 weeks in the middle of nowhere. So
Yeah. I mean, I came in right after that. I didn't have the black boots that you can shine and all that stuff. I had the leather boots, the brown leather boots,
like suede.
the camouflage or the military Marine Corps pattern, Marpat. So I didn't have to do any of that stuff. I didn't have to starch any of that stuff, But I did, however, have a set. I still have a set of cammies here that camouflage gear, the Marpat camouflage gear that I use for inspection purposes only. Right, they're still stocked away in my closet. And I remember taking like Scotch Guard and ironing that stuff because you do have like those overlaying pieces of cloth on your cargo pants, cargo
Yep.
area. So I'd starch that. I mean, perfectly. I mean, it's everything's marked. They would only come out during inspections. You would not see me wearing any of that stuff outside of the inspections. But yeah, man, it's crazy how lax things have become, and it has to do with standards, with pride in the uniform, pride in your service too. So I've come across many folks and I'm like, how the hell did that person get promoted? Or how the hell is that person where they are? But it is what it is. Hopefully things go back to a certain standard, if you will.
Yeah.
I did have a question for you, John, just kind of
Yes.
to open up the podcast here. Would you rather eat MREs for an entire month straight, or only be able to whisper during your entire time in boot camp?
Wow, that's a good one, actually. That's a really good question because I could do both, honestly,
pick
with
one,
no
man.
problems.
Well, I mean, if you're eating MRE straight, you got problems, dog.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it before, so it's not that big of a deal. I've gone 2 months eating MREs on the mountaintops. So it's not that big of a deal. You just got to figure out how to make the MREs and like exclude some of the pieces of the MREs that are not so great for your digestive tract. But
you got to eat the whole MRE. Yeah, and just like Navy Cop said, don't forget to pre-mix the peanut butter packets.
Yeah, you gotta squeeze it and warm it up before you. Same with the cheese
Oh,
packets.
yeah.
Same with the
Yep,
cheese
that's it.
packets.
And you got to eat that
Um,
freaking that unleavened bread or whatever the hell they give you. So
the
would you rather
crackers.
eat MREs? Yep. Would you rather eat
So
MREs
if it's,
for a month
are we
straight?
talking about one MRE a day, or are we talking about 3 MREs a day? Because that
No, no,
makes
no.
it
Just 3 meals a day, man. MREs for a month straight.
okay. I
Your
think
body
I
will
would.
hate you.
Yeah, it would. It would recover though. It'd be all right. Especially as
Yeah.
I was working my butt off and in my my mid career where I was working really hard. I think from a mental health perspective, and maybe this is a weird observation, but I'm the chief of observations. So from a mental health perspective, I would like to do only whispering at boot camp. I would actually like to do like silent boot camp if that would be even possible. Um, for 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever boot camp is nowadays, because of the fact that it would allow me to not only absorb a little bit more of the boot camp and be a little bit more aware of what's going on. Because when you lower your voice or you mute your voice, you the rest of your ears and your eyes and everything else kind of, it's like being in a room trying to talk to people with the TV on really loud versus being in a
Right,
room
right.
trying to talk to people with the TV on lower, right, or off.
Mhm.
And that's something I experience a lot in Italy. It's just a norm in Italy, kind of. But you can tell the difference when you turn the volume down on the TV, and then everybody's voice kind of slowly starts to come back down, right? So not
Yeah.
everybody's like at the top of their vocal range. I would love to do silent boot camp or very minimal talking boot camp, and if talking, then add a whisper. I think that would be a really interesting experiment to try.
That'd be like you're a monk. You're in a monastery or something. You're
Almost.
I mean, how would they get the point across? Are they walking around with whiteboards? Do this.
Well, I
How
mean,
how would that
yeah,
work?
like you're basically learning skills of how to march, how to do this. Like, of course, for marching, you have to use verbal commands, I would think, or maybe you could do it silently. I don't know how that would operate, but for the rest of it, it would be a lot more reading, comprehension, understanding, and then some way to test that. But the reason why I say it is one of the most informative parts of my growing up in my childhood was being in the Scouts, and I
Mhm.
think were you in the Scouts as well?
I was. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So there was a few things in Scouts that kind of like built me up, and I think that kind of preempted my military career. It just kind of naturally pushed me in that direction because it's also very structured. There's things you got to do. There's certain uniform standards and things like that. So that kind of helped me, that and then like marching band where you get to learn how to work in synchronicity with other people.
Mhm.
But I feel like there was one event in scouting that really kind of changed my whole mental attitude. And when I go back and think about it now and just compare it to what's going on in my life at any given time now in my adult life, we did a thing, and I can't really like talk a whole lot about it, I guess, because it's more of a secretive kind of culture for the Scouts. But why the hell not? They have a thing called the Order of the Arrow, and I'm sure they don't do this anymore, but they basically, it's a rite of passage to get into a special kind of fraternity group of Scouts. And
Yep.
then when you go to these summer camps and things like that, they put on exhibitions and they dress up in the traditional, Native American regalia, and they do these different kind of ceremonies and dancing and things like that for the Scouts, which was a huge part of my scouting experience. But to get into it, you got to get nominated for it. You have to get selected for it, and then once you get selected for it, they take you for about a week. I think it was a week or maybe 10 days, and they literally take you out in the middle of nowhere in the woods, and you just basically go there and you do pretty much hard labor, like you're doing kind of like a service project, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. Like there's no like we're working a couple hours today and then we're just going to do that for the next 6 months or whatever and finish the thing. It was literally like get up as soon as the sun came up, work all day, take your meals, and then go back to sleep, basically. And it was completely silent. We had these little tokens around our neck that we would wear as kind of like recruitees for this fraternity thing.
Yep.
And we had to be silent the whole time. We couldn't talk. I think there was a small break when we were having meals, so we would be able to talk a little bit. But other than that, there was zero talking. It was basically like a silent retreat. And that experience, I think, really showed me that it's possible to do collective group projects, doing labor, doing work, working together, building things, constructing things, cleaning things without the use of talking. So that's why I think it would be a really interesting experiment to try to do that in a boot camp environment and see if how that would actually work.
That might be something to bring up, huh? If just have a single platoon or something, experiment with that. Just silent. But I think part of it is, at least in my experience, is to create chaos, right? And see how a person reacts under those circumstances, right? And it's not so much like that when I went to like the basic school TBS for the officer part of it, but for the enlisted part of it, it was just complete chaos. Like you wake up, just kind of like you see in like Full Metal Jacket, you wake up and then they got the trash can, blah, blah, get up, to put you under a severe amount of stress, because that should be like, at least in for the officer side of it, there was General Conway, our previous commandant years ago, had mentioned that they structure the OCS and TBS to be some of the most stressful parts of an officer's career, to see how you react under pressure, right? Under certain circumstances. And I get that too, because I was the idiot who raised my hand and volunteered for, the first 2 weeks at the basic school to say, hey, I'll be a platoon commander, and of course they want to set the example, and they're like, hey, get over here, dumbass. Here's what you did wrong. Here's what you did wrong in front of everybody, right? Correcting me. And then behind closed doors, they continue to correct me, right? And I understand, I'm okay. They have to set the example so other people know, hey, this is the baseline. We're only going to move up from there. Got it. But yeah, I was the one who raised my hand and did that, right? So they had to create that baseline. It was a very stressful time, at least because you have to take on that platoon commander role for, I think, 2 weeks. That includes accountability for everybody. That includes morning accountability, night accountability, debriefing, after action reports, leading the platoon into field exercises, marches, etc. All across the board. You're basically a platoon commander, taking charge of everything for those 2 weeks. It was very stressful, and I understand what General Conway meant. It's supposed to be some of the most stressful times in a person's career, similar to enlisted boot camp.
Yeah.
What is this? Navy cop, structured stress. Yes, structured stress. I like that. Break down, build up, team building. We did similar methods in the brig with similar outcomes. It all worked out well. Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and we hear it all the time. You break them down, you build them up, and then you tell them why. Completely understand.
Yeah, I mean, in basic, it was definitely a whole lot of that. But I think even in basic, like around the last week or two, you could feel the change. Of course, you had like phased kind of stages of basic training where you first get there and you're like a snowbird or whatever they call it, and you're brand new, and they're in your butt like 24/7 for the first 2 or 3 weeks.
And nobody's in my butt there, John.
As we progressed on, there was a point in time right around the end. I think we were doing like the final FTX field exercise thing where you felt like you were still a private, like you were still a basic trainee, but it felt like you were able to have a little bit more of a discussion with the drill instructors at that point versus at the very, very beginning, where they were screaming at you and yelling at you and everything you did was wrong. And I felt the same thing in warrant officer school. Like the first week of warrant officer school was like hell week. It was like literally like really, really, really
Yeah.
crazy. And then it
Walks,
started to
right? Is that what they
slowly
call it?
wean off.
Is it walks? Warrant
Yeah,
officer?
walks. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Down in Fort Rucker, Alabama. And hopefully they still do it. Hopefully they still call it Fort Rucker. If they don't, they need to change it back to Fort Rucker. But yeah, it was like that in walks as well, in warrant officer candidate school. And the first week was literally hell week. Like it was kind of like basic training all over again, except for the fact that you already been in the military for like a decade. And
Right.
you know, you're like, I don't think I would ever have to experience this again, but now I am. And now it's worse
Yeah.
because, you know, I'm a
Because you
10-year
volunteered for
like
it.
a tenured NCO coming to the school, walking around the base with like my pistol belt and like my little bag, my sachet or whatever it was called, and not having rights to drink coffee and having to stand in line and do these crazy things to get into the mess
Yeah.
hall and eat. And then walking around the base in formations and watching like AIT students walk by you with their headphones on and chilling. Like it was degrading to say the least. But at the end of it, there was definitely space for something like I mentioned. Like I think you could take the last week of boot camp or maybe the last 10 days of boot camp, and you could literally do a kind of a silent retreat, maybe even just a few days. But it generally it put people in that kind of environment and give them a silent retreat. Like generally, it forces them to get inside their own heads and to turn internally to start to figure things out, because you know it's like sleep deprivation is the same kind of thing that happens where after a certain amount of hours your brain starts to like drift off and your
it does.
thinking gets all altered, right? So I think it could be something really, really helpful, especially for military folks coming into the military, like getting that kind of exposure to some indirect but also direct training for your mental health before you start your career as a military member. Like I think that would be kind of beneficial. Like it should be somewhere scheduled in there in basic training, or at least at your first school that you go to, your initial training, your advanced training that you do for your job, something like that built in where you can actually build in some habits and build in some things before people start going to their regular job and doing deployments and doing 10 years of service, of ground pounding or whatever it happens to be, whatever your MOS happens to be. I think that would be really beneficial in the long term. It's short term, of course, it sounds stupid. Short term, it looks really silly. It looks like a waste of money. But I feel like long, like that would be super beneficial, and it would keep people in the military, I think, longer if they know how to deal with stress.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of folks, I mean, it all depends on leadership too. A lot of folks don't know how to deal with stress, right?
Yeah.
And it would be great if they learned right off the bat.
Still today.
However, I mean, just perusing through like Reddit and, you know, just different Facebook things that I see, a lot of people leave because of the leadership, right?
Yeah.
Their leadership. They're like, yeah, you know, they're making it hell for me. I don't know if I want to go. There's shit. I wish I would have saved it. There was one that said I'm at like the 15-year mark and my leadership is making it hell for me. He's like, I don't know if I want to stay another 5 years. I'm like, brother, you need to like go seek mental health, and trust me, you want to do those 5 years. You will be kicking yourself in the behind if you do not push through those 5 years and get your retirement for the rest of your life after that. Because really the last year while you're in is kind of like a whatever year, you know, you're like prepping for retirement. If your leadership is good, you know, they'll allow you time to do that stuff, right? While you do turnover with your people. But I was like, man, that you're too far in the game to call it quits, dude. You know, just go seek mental health. Go let your leadership know that, you know, maybe you need a little bit of time. But then again, I'm like, you have 5 more years. That means you're probably going to PCS at some point, you know, unless you just got there and you were there for 5 years. I don't know how that works. Not sure what service this person was in or what branch, but yeah, man, I know a guy who got out at 15 years, a major who got out at 15 years, not because he was stressed, but because he wanted to pursue another position that he was accepted for
Yep.
over in DC. So he had a different plan. But then I talked to him. I'm like, hey, you don't want to do the extra 5 years? He's like, nah, it's not worth it to me. I'm like, that's kind of strange, yeah, I don't know what his background is. I don't know what his family situation is, but you know, all the more power to the guy. But yeah,
Yeah.
this dude that I saw online, man, I was like, man, you really you're gonna be kicking yourself in behind, man. You gotta learn how to cope with the stress. I know leadership sucks sometimes. You gotta have candid conversations with folks. Like this stuff is you're not gonna get the best of me if you continue down this route. Please understand that.
Yeah.
And I've had conversations with folks like that before, with leadership and stuff when I was younger, right? As I got older, I was able to open up a little bit more and just kind of lay down the law. Hey, look, this is not going to work that way. When I was younger, I had to explain that. I'm like, look, I'm feeling really burned out. I'm feeling really overwhelmed. Can I have a candid conversation with you, staff sergeant, or whoever it was? This is back when I was like a corporal or whatever, because they were really hammering down on folks to get jobs done, right? To get things done, because as you know, requests for information come down the pipe and you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to get ready for inspections, et cetera, et cetera. And it really takes a toll on folks. And that's
Yeah.
why, you'd go back to the barracks and it was just a freaking drink fest at the barracks on the weekends, even during the weekdays, right?
Yeah. During the week too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, my roommates in the barracks and stuff had, like, just bottles of wild turkey all over the place, and I'm like, "Dude, you guys are really hammering down on this stuff, like, you're really, like, taking this stuff in." And I was never a big drinker myself, I just couldn't understand, and I was new to the fleet, I was new to the Marine Corps, and they're like, "Dude, you don't worry, you're gonna understand once you get your feet wet, dude." Like, thankfully, I didn't, it wasn't like that for me.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it was just that's how folks cope with stress a lot of times, right? And they'd get in
Yeah.
trouble too. They come and do inspections at the barracks, like, hey, you're not supposed to have hard liquor in the barracks, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And it shouldn't be that way. We shouldn't have to turn to all this stuff to alleviate stress. It should be better coping mechanisms. Thankfully, nowadays I've seen the transition. I've seen how things are getting coped with better. It goes from like alcohol to, actually like they're open. People are more open to going to see a therapist. They're available all over the base. You know, use them. Use them. They're getting paid. Why not?
Right. Yeah, I feel like there's a huge opportunity for like culture change, and that's why I said if you can get like it might not affect the next 10 years, but definitely after like 10 plus years, you can affect a whole entire
Oh yeah,
generation of military folks. Like look now, like with the grooming standards, right? Of course,
yeah,
a lot of people are very happy about that, and they embrace the grooming standards being a little bit loosened, and female hair grooming standards and things like that. And it didn't take much, but there's still there's a lot of folks out there who still have that traditional view of it, who maybe grew up in a military family, who had an E8 or an E9 or a lieutenant colonel as a father or a mother. Um,
yep,
who just have been used to that, and they've heard it from them, and they carried that with them. So it's not like everybody's like, oh yeah, cool, we can grow beards, and everybody's growing beards. Like not everybody is. I'm sure there's a ton of people out there that are still adhering to those older grooming standards as well, who are maybe still just a few years into the military. But I think
yeah,
that culture shift, that culture change is what really allows us to slowly over time. And that's the problem with making changes with like that, or dealing with mental health issues, or dealing with alcohol related issues, or um, just anger management, things like that. Like it's something that you can't change overnight just by implementing a policy change or implementing some kind
mhm,
of standard or rule set. Because even when you do that, that also takes time, right? It just takes time, and it takes persistent effort over time, and upholding the standards, and from the highest levels, and then enforcing those standards up and down the chain of command. Really, you can shift the culture. And I think when you shift the culture is when you actually start to make those changes. But I don't think people want to invest that much time. I think we live in a 4-year time cycle, right? Every 4 years, the government changes. We see it now.
Yeah.
We saw it when Biden was in. We saw it when Trump was in before. We saw it when Obama was in before that. We saw it when the Clintons were in, when Ford and like Carter and all those guys.
Yeah.
Every 4 years, you get a change of culture, basically. And it's kind of forced upon you because of the higher up leadership that's running our government, running our country. And that trickles down through the Secretary of Defense, the different secretaries of the different staffs. With the VA secretary, you see it now. It's a total culture shift. Like it's a total culture change now. and even him, like I watched a few of his interviews on some other shows and stuff like that. Even him is like, that's where you get at it. That's where you start to make the change. And who knows, in 4 years, everything could revert back to the way it was. So yeah, I think we live in this kind of like 4-year cycle, plus the attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter every day. Like I applaud the people that sit here and watch us for an hour and a half, or 2 hours doing this continually. That it shows your level of maturity for one, and it shows your level of just being able to sit down and calmly listen to something and watch something and enjoy it. So
I've been working on that myself, on the attention span thing, right? So I think I mentioned it last week when we had Omar Portilla on there about the just how much time the phones take from you, right? So I went ahead and I got this dumb phone, not a dumb phone, but I got a dumb phone app, right? Just to dumbify my phone, if that's even a word, just to make it as clean as possible. And I don't know if I can show you here, but when I open up my phone, that's all I see. This, and then, where is it? No, not that. What the hell?
Calendar.
That's all the hidden apps that I have. But that guy and that guy, that's the only two things I see. Right. And that's all I want to see. And I can tell you that has cut down so much of my screen time, dude. It really has. I went from like 4 or 5 hours a day or something like that, because I'm on the phone, like looking at YouTube, listening to music and stuff like that, to I barely pick the thing up now. I really do. And I took Facebook off there. Like I have it on there. I just don't open it. It's in the background, hidden. But I just check it when I'm at home. I just jump on here real quick. Oh, okay. I have freaking 8 messages, whatever, or 8 things I have to approve for the military retirement group.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. It cleared my head a lot. It really did. And then I got a chance to actually sit down and read some stuff. Like I take books everywhere I go. I take this thing I got a while back. I have another one up there with my other notebooks. But I take this thing everywhere I go, and I feel like I've been actually like putting more information into this stuff, reading more, because I'm not scrolling a lot anymore, and I've only been on this for a week, and it really has helped out, man. Because I was considering going down to like, I don't know, like a Motorola Razor or something, like a Nokia, like a dumb phone, like a flip phone, right? I was considering that. But then I thought, I still have to check my emails. I still, want to be able to check the YouTube stuff. So I kind of need it. Plus, I have this phone that I paid for, I'm not going to just toss it in the drawer. So yeah, man, if anybody out there, we're not sponsored by this app or anything like that, but if anybody's trying to do something like that, one of these apps, I don't know what the heck the app is called, but Simplify Your Phone or whatever, it really helps. It really does. It keeps all the messy apps out of sight, out of mind. The only notifications I have on there are the messages from my kids, my family, and my Ring app. I want to know if somebody's trying to freaking break into my house or something.
Right.
But that's really it. Everything else is shut off. I learned that you can, mess with your was it your do not disturb, you different focus times. You can mess with all that stuff to give you different options during different focus times. Really useful, man. I learned so much about what I could do with this. Um, that I don't need much. It's going back to like the simplicity thing. Like, what do I really need? And I actually sat there and I thought to myself, I use my whiteboard, like what do I want and where do I want to be and what do I really need? I only really need the text messages, a phone, maybe FaceTime my kids. I want to check out my LinkedIn every so often. So I check that, the YouTube stuff. That's really all I need. I took everything else off of there. I don't use it for games. I don't use it for anything else. My email, my calendar. That's really pretty much it. Just the fundamentals, just the basics, and cut out all the fat. Leave everything off to the side because it is really a distraction, man. And if my mind feels so much cleaner, it feels so much cleaner, man. In the last week, really.
Yeah, I've been trying. I'm not trying to do that. I generally have it at nighttime from about 10 p.m. till about 7 a.m. I have a do not disturb. It just completely shuts off. There's like
Yeah.
a handful of people that can actually reach me. When my phone is in do not disturb mode. When I'm doing the podcast the same way, I don't get any notifications. So sometimes it's hard when we have a guest and we're trying to get them on and they might be having issues with internet or connectivity or something like that. And we're trying to message back and forth. So I kind of like keep the app open so I can see if they're sending messages. But other than that, like I generally, if I'm really focused on something, I really have to do something, I generally use a do not disturb mode. There are multiple modes on there that you can set, like driving mode, for example, when you plug it into your car and you've got Apple Play or Google or whatever.
That's right.
You can, I think it does it automatically, but you can set it for specific things because I can still get like certain messages through when I'm in driving mode as well. They'll pop up on the screen. I think life-changing like tech thing that's happened recently for me is this Apple Pencil thing.
That is a good one.
My wife put me onto it. She's been using an iPad and Apple Pencil for quite a while, taking notes for language learning and doing stuff like that and writing down a bunch of stuff. And I like to journal, and I look at journaling as a really, really great tool. I know you do as well. It's a very foundational pillar of your being as well. So I like to journal, and I was thinking about it. I got it primarily for the schoolwork. She was like, look, just try this. I think it'll be really good for you. You can use it. There's a couple good apps. She gave me one of them. I think one of them is free with an option to buy, and the other one was a paid app. So I just went and got both of the apps as well. I think GoodNotes is the one that I've been using the most.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, you can set up different notebooks in there. And so I was like, because I've been trying to get back into journaling slowly, and I carry my journal around with me, and every once in a while I get it out and write, but I feel like I'm moving a lot more lately, especially with work, and I don't always carry it around with me. So
yeah,
I do have the iPad, and I try to use it as much as possible, especially for school, and I'm doing all my schoolwork on it and notes and everything else. And I was like, let me start seeing if I can start journaling on there. And so I think that'll give me the option to not only write my journals by hand the way I'm used to writing them, because I feel like typing them out it's okay, taking notes in the note app, but I feel like this motion right here really helps me like internalize what I'm doing as well. So I don't lose that. I've got this kind of like textured screen protector that she got to put on top of it, so it feels like paper. But I've been trying to get back into the journaling thing, and I feel like I can take these journals, and if I needed to, I can print them out because it's still my handwritten notes. But I can also search through them, right? So I can also just like go into my notebook and I can search for a specific thing, and it'll pull up all the instances of when I wrote that down, which is also a really, really cool thing if you're trying to get into journaling, or if you have been journaling and you want a little bit better way to go back and parse through your notes or parse through your journals to find specific things that you're looking for that are relevant to what you're trying to do. To get ideas or whatever like that. I feel like that's a really interesting way to do that. And at the end of the day, I can print stuff up and put it in the binder and put it on the shelf and have kind of the same similar kind of journal look and feel, just my own.
Right.
I'd have to basically make my own book or send it somewhere and get it pressed and printed and sent back to the house.
Yeah, that's so I was looking at that. So I had the same thing, the iPad Pro. I got the Apple Pencil. It has a screen on there, screen protector. Feels like paper, right?
Yep.
And I carry it most places that I go to. It's in my backpack right now, hanging up by the door. That gray backpack is the one I take to work.
Mhm.
So I'm able to write down notes, and I find it pretty easy to do that, right? Because the Apple Pencil just works flawlessly with the iPads. And I was looking at, actually, I was at work and I was just looking at like journaling stuff, and I came across a Remarkable. Have you heard of the
Yep.
Remarkable tablet?
Yep,
Yeah, the
yep.
Remarkable Pro now, and it's it's colorized. Your text can be turned into, or your handwriting can be turned into text. Um, and I wondered, like, what's the difference? If I already have an iPad, why would I get a Remarkable, or vice versa? And I thought, maybe it's a nice want, but not a need, right? Because I do want, I hands down, I would rather write in notebooks,
Yep.
in something I can touch, a notebook, like on a paper. I love the feeling of a pen or a pencil on paper. The iPad's okay. You got to have the right app in order to do that. There's Evernote. I've used Evernote. There's Microsoft Notes, things like that. You got to have the right app, or else it just doesn't feel right.
Right.
And there's tons of videos on that on YouTube. There's tons of stuff that people had to tell you how to journal, how to write, how to use it for productivity, things like that. And mostly I was using it for productivity. I work in a facilities division. I'm a facilities division head, and I had to keep track of uh, 12 employees across 6 naval sites across the nation. So there's a lot that goes on. And I find that the iPad really, really works well with that. Try to keep everything in check, right? And I have it linked up to my, not linked up, but I have it mirrored to my Microsoft Notes. So it
Mhm.
really works well. But it doesn't, I find myself gravitating back towards a regular, like a logbook or a journal, just to write down tasks. We have a ton of them in my supply closet. I'm like, let me just grab one here real quick. And I just find myself putting the iPad away and then putting this pen on paper more often than not. So it's technology is awesome. You have to embrace it, man. But I definitely always find myself going back to regular pencil and paper, man, or pen and paper.
Yeah.
I don't think an iPad can really replace that. I mean, maybe something comes along where, it's like a flawless app. There's always something that I need out of an app that I cannot get, and I can just easily just do it on a piece of paper. The bad thing is, sometimes I write things in notebooks that really um, are not like secret or anything, but maybe I put like a password in there or something like that just to remember it. So when I do want to, like, especially these work notebooks, when I do want to get rid of them, I have to like go through all the things and rip out the pages and stuff like that and just find out. So that's the bad part of it. If they were all perforated, then that'd be something else.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, the Remarkable thing is actually pretty. I was looking at it when it first launched, I think I believe it was on Kickstarter or something. They launched like a Kickstarter type thing for it. And I was looking at it then when it was like early stage. And I've watched it over the years, and I've always had it in the back of my mind. It's basically the flip phone of iPad handwriting is what it is, or reading as well, because you can do the e-ink.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
right.
maybe they've updated the screen to something else, but it used to be
It
e-ink.
did.
Pretty sophisticated e-ink that they were using. That was kind of like their trademark like thing for it.
Right.
So yeah, it basically allows you to use it as a note-taking app, an e-reader without having all the internet connected stuff built into it.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, it's definitely cool. But I'm like, man, the one that I was looking at with like the little keyboard and all that was like $800. I'm like, do I really want to spend that just to write down some notes? I don't know
At that
about
point,
that.
you buy iPad Air and the Apple Pencil, and have everything and
That one I
watch
could buy a pallet of notebooks. Right? So no, I'm glad we talked about that, man, because it was writing things down and clearing your mind, putting things on paper, man. And I want to give a shout out to our last week's guest, Omar Portilla, on his book Dust Settles. Very awesome book. So he wrote this. It was a compilation of short stories and poems based on his life. He deployed 3 times in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom into Afghanistan. And this, it's in going to a therapist. The therapist had mentioned to him, hey, start writing things down. Put your thoughts, everything you want on paper. And it has really helped him out, is what he said. He has been struggling with some PTSD. Very, very strong stories in here, stuff that really makes you think from his childhood. He was affected by a mortar at one point and, was disoriented. And, a fellow officer, an officer picked him up and, helped him out, made sure he was okay. A lot of great information in here, a lot of good stories. I'm only halfway through it, man. It is so good. And I'm glad he sent me that, because it's, I would have bought it anyway. I told him, hey, look, I'm going to buy your book. He's like, look, dude, I'll just send it to you. I'm like, hey, that's perfect, man. Thanks. Well, feel free. And gave him my address. He sent it over ASAP. Got it within like 3 days. Awesome. But yeah, Dust Settles. It's on Amazon. Awesome book. Another one that I just went to the library and I picked up. This one's really good. It's called The Next Conversation. So this guy was a trial lawyer, or he still is a trial lawyer, right? I heard him on a podcast, and I had picked up his book without even knowing that he was on this podcast. Jefferson Fisher is his name. And he was on a, what was it? The Diary of a CEO podcast. And he was talking, and then he mentioned his name, or the host mentioned his name. And I'm like, and I looked on my desk, I'm like, I have his book. That's cool. Let me listen to this podcast. Very cool. It's called The Next Conversation, Argue Less, Talk More. One thing that stood out, man, I'm big on writing notes. It says, he talks about arguing with folks, arguing with people, and how when you argue with people, it's a no-win situation, right? And one thing I wrote down says, winning an argument is a losing game. Winning means you've likely lost something far more valuable, their trust, their respect, or connection. Only thing you've won is their contempt, right? Because and think about it, like say you argue with a significant other, a wife, a friend, a girlfriend, whatever. Oftentimes, if you're arguing with your wife, oftentimes you're having to apologize after the fact because she's already pissed, right? So who really won there? Yeah, you have a chance to puff up your chest and say, hey, yeah, I'm the guy that won, right? But did you really win?
You win the war. You win the battle, but lose the war. Is that the
exactly? Yeah. Did you really win? What did you get out of that? If anything, she's more pissed at you, or your friend is more pissed at you because you're trying to prove them wrong every time.
So there's no resentment comes in. Yep.
Exactly. So very good. I'm only like 2 chapters in, but dude, like I took this to my kids' baseball game. They were warming up for like, I don't know, half an hour prior to, and I'm sitting there, I'm just pumping out pages, man. It is so good. So good. And the way he writes is just so smooth, right? It's it keeps you wanting to turn the page. It really does. It's so smooth. Like stories from his childhood, stories from his time in the courtroom, things like that. Really good, man. Really good. Let me see. I have another one here. Where the hell is the other one? I'm sure you've heard of it. The 4 Agreements. I started reading that again.
Great.
Yeah, really good book, man. I read it years ago, and I picked it up again at the library. It's still on like the top bestsellers on like Amazon after so many years. I don't know where the heck I put it. It's probably in my work bag. But man, it's a book on Toltec wisdom, for folks out there who don't know. It just kind of takes you through 4 things that you should know to live a better life, right? Really good book, man. It's a short read, probably as as thick as this one here. Short read, but man, it's so good. Definitely pick it up. And gosh, there's oh, that's the one I'm the next one I'm picking up is the Almanac of Naval
Ravikant.
Ravikant. Yeah. Oh
Yep.
God. I was listening to this dude on a podcast, and I heard of his book, and I had it in my Amazon cart for the longest. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna pick it up. You know, I have it on. I'm on like the wait list for a library. Um, gosh, where is it? Here it is. No, this isn't it.
It's the title again. It's I know I've seen it a million times, but
The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. So one of his quotes, man, it's really good. And it kind of resonated with me because military retirement podcast, people serve in the military for so many years because they want to reach the pinnacle of retirement, right? If you serve for a
Right.
certain amount of time. So he had mentioned is the reason to play the game to be free of it. And then he's got another one. The more you do things that are natural to you, the less competition you have. You escape competition through authenticity. That it just makes so much sense, right? Like, just do something that you love that comes natural to you, and you will most likely be one of the top tier people in that field. And he says, if I had to summarize how to be successful in life in 2 words, it would be to productize yourself. Figure out what it is that you naturally do that the world might want, that you can scale up and turn into a product. I just like this dude he's smooth, man. He knows what he's talking about. At least it sounds like he knows what he's talking about. Either that or I'm a sucker. But I'm definitely picking up his book after hearing him on this podcast, and I had it in my Amazon cart. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna pick this thing up, man, because I gotta buy them because I can't. It's a library book. This one's a library book. I can't mark in this thing, right? At least I don't want to. I suppose I could. I don't want to. I love marking my books, like putting like little flags on them and stuff like that, and underlying things. I love marking my stuff. I got to buy this one, the Almanac of Naval Ravikant.
Yeah, it's if you've followed him on previously Twitter and now X, I think he's still on there, but if you followed him on Twitter for the last bunch of years, like his tweets, he was one of the first people to start using that long tweet format where it's just this kind of thread of information, like maybe one main post and then a bunch of replies underneath it to kind of expand on the main topic. And a lot of that information from that book comes from a lot of those tweets that he's done over the years.
It's so good, dude.
Yeah, he's a really smart dude, great businessman, super smart guy. I think I first discovered him on the Tim Ferriss podcast, probably where I discover everybody. And he just super smart, really intelligent business guy. Very, very smart and very good at business and entrepreneurship. I actually he's got a brother named Kamal Ravikant, and I actually got to meet him up in, I think it was in New York, somewhere in New York. He was doing like a book signing, book reading. It was like a private little event, and I got to meet his brother up in New York, and his brother's a great author, really good prose. Has written a few really great books. I'm trying to think of one. Wrote, I'll look it up real quick, but Kamal Ravikant is his brother, and he's a great author as well, and super, super smart guy as well. Also business savvy, the two of them both. So yeah, I've definitely written that one down.
Dude, you mentioned the Tim Ferriss, right? Tim Ferriss. So I was just listening to his podcast the other day, and one that stood out to me, man, and And I even went to the point where I was like at work and I had to look this other dude up because it just seemed so interesting, right? It was
Yeah.
this guy, Craig Mod. Craig
Yeah.
Mod. So this guy just goes on long walks, and he lives in Japan, and he put out a couple books, right? One of them being like a photo book or a picture book, and that's his thing, man. He just goes on walks with people and
Yeah.
just talks. Yeah, it was kind of. I mean, going on a walk is not impressive, but just listening to him and what he's doing and his mindset, it was impressive. It was like, okay, to the point where I had to look the guy up and I went on his website just to see what he's about. Just from a different perspective, right? I just wanted to know where his mind comes from, where his thoughts come from. I think he has a book called Walk and Talks. He walked across Thailand, Bali, China, Japan. Oh gosh, it's a whole lot of stuff, man. It's so good though, so good. If you haven't heard it, man, I'd say listen to that one. Great episode.
Yeah, it's actually 2 episodes, right? It's like 4
It is.
plus hours total.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it's a really good. I'd never heard of the guy before either, surprisingly enough. And yeah, he's got a new book coming out. I forget what the title is. I'm so bad with names, but names
the
and
walks,
titles.
right? The what?
Yeah, so he does a lot.
I walk my dog. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I walk my dog at night and in the morning, right? Just recently got a new dog.
Mhm.
Dog is housebroken, waits by the door, when they want to go out, when she wants to go out. And I'm walking the dog, but then I'm also thinking about things, right? It's an open time early in the morning, late at night when nobody's around. Things are quiet. It's a time to kind of sit there and think or walk there and think about maybe tomorrow, what you've done all day, ideas. I think some of the best ideas that I have come from me just wandering around the neighborhood. I'm sure people are like, who the I have to be walking a dog. If not, I'm just standing in front of somebody's yard, like just pondering about life, staring at the sky.
Yeah, I didn't realize that the Japan, like hiking and walking and some of the big long trails that they have, and they have a few kind of like, I think they have one that's like the Camino that basically goes all the way
Yeah.
down the mainland and then down out to the peninsula is one of the
Mhm.
ones he was mentioning, but I didn't realize it was such a big deal there. And I was talking with a guy that I work with who spent a bunch of time in Japan. He's an avid hiker, and he was telling me about a bunch of trails that he had hit out there in Japan.
Yeah.
And he would go on these like week long, 10-day, 20-day hikes. So he was doing something very similar, where he was out there hiking for days and days and days and days. Take a pack with him, have stuff for overnights, set up camp wherever along the way, or maybe hit like a camping area along the way on the path. But yeah, I didn't realize it was such a big deal in Japan, and I know here in Europe is also pretty big, especially in Central Europe and France and Germany and Italy. I don't know about up in Scandinavia, but there's a bunch of hiking trails here as well in Europe that have been here for hundreds, if not thousands of years. They're still the same trails that have been there pretty much unaltered from their state from 5, 6, 700 years ago, which is actually really interesting. It's just now you've got guide rails set up on either side and little snack points and stuff like that. But beyond that, there's still a lot of wild trails out there. But yeah, walking is great. When I was in Germany, I did a lot of walking, and I would sometimes do like doing language lessons or reading an ebook or listening to a podcast while walking. But sometimes just go out and just be completely silent and by myself and just think. It's also a great way to have a phone call with somebody if you want to really connect with somebody. just go on a big long hike and have somebody on the phone as well. It's a nice thing to do.
Yeah, that trail in Japan is the Kumanakoto. Is
Yep.
what it is, the Kumanakoto. And I've not been on there. I've been on a couple trails when I lived out in Japan, stationed out there over mainland in Iwakuni, Japan. Beautiful place too. It was like a farming community kind of where the base is located. Really nice. But yeah, we'd go out there, and what's incredible is when you go on these hikes, the majority of people you see on there are like 90. They're just like so agile. They continue to move. Even going up the mountains. Like Kintai Mountain or Kintai Castle. There's like a mountain over near the air station out there in Iwakuni. You go down, drive down towards the town. You cross over the Kintai Bridge, this wooden bridge. They use no nails or screws or anything on this bridge. It's just built by wood, right? You can walk across it too. Amazing, man. And right by this little river, you walk behind there. There's a whole I don't know, like a park. Beautiful park, man. Like the trees are cut beautifully and trimmed beautifully. You keep going on behind there, and there's a trail that takes you up this paved road towards a castle that you can see the entire city, the entire town. But we'd go there for like PT in the morning, and it'd be like maybe 5 in the morning, because it does take a little bit of while to get up to the top. So you want to be able to get to the top and back down within an hour and a half or something. We'd show up there at the parking lot. We start running, and you'd see these people who are like 80 just walking up these steep hills. I mean, these hills are kicking my ass going up, and they're just going up like nothing, not running, but they're walking, and that's part of it, right? And you run by Ohio gozaimasu, good morning. It was just amazing, man, that these folks are that age and doing that. And I'm wondering, damn, I want to be that age and do that,
You gotta do it. That's all there is to it.
That's it. That's it, man. That's it.
Yeah. Speaking of getting to goals and setting goals and getting along the path. I know we were talking about a few books. I wanted to pull this one up on the screen. This is what I'm currently reading. I just read his other book, but this is Oliver Burkeman.
Meditations for Mortals.
It's called Meditations for Mortals. And it's basically set up as I think it's like a 4-week kind of reading exercise. Every single day, there's one chapter is about 7 or 8 or 9 minutes long. But the book I read before, which is, let's see if I can go to the library here. The book I read before was the 4,000 Weeks, and I think I brought it up on the podcast. It basically talks about the average human lifespan is 4,000 weeks, and how do you manage that, and how do you make the best of that time. And then this second book that I'm reading, Meditation for Mortals, is essentially every single day kind of like an observation about dealing with life, dealing with setting goals, figuring out what you want to do in life, what your time actually means, and how much meaning it has, and how do you put meaning to it. So a few really interesting, again, I'm only a few days in, and I actually missed a couple days. So I had started on day 1, I did day 2, and then I skipped a couple days to day 3. But yeah, I'm going to try to read it every single day, just pop it in or listen to it. I mean, it's less than 10 minutes, so I can pretty much do it anywhere at any time. A really, really great book. I think you would like it specifically.
And what is it called?
Out in the audience,
4,000
Meditation for Mortals. Hopefully I can push it without it playing.
I wrote it down here. I just heard that too. I don't know what the hell I was listening to, and I just heard, you have 4,000. Was it 4,000 weeks in a and an average lifetime.
Yep.
And it was just this week too. I heard it. Somebody mentioned that, and I was sitting there. I was like,
Probably on the
"Oh,
podcast.
yeah, probably a podcast, right?" And I was sitting there. I'm not trying to do the math in my head or anything like that, but I'm like, "Well, I guess that sounds about right." Right? Every year is what, 52 weeks. Um, but yeah, I mean, what do you do with it? What do you do with your life, right? And that
I mean,
kind of
we
brought
talked
me
about it a
to.
little bit last week as well, right? Like you only have so many Super Bowls, only have so many birthdays left.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Depending on what age you are, and not just your own mortality, but the mortality of those people around you, your parents, your grandparents, your your kids, your loved ones, your dog and
Yeah,
cat. So
that's right.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. And that kind of
Uh,
sparked off something I was thinking about too was, you know, our lives are short. I mean, by if you look at it
Very.
from, yeah, they're short, right? You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You never know what's going to happen next week, whatever. So what are you going to do with it? You know, there's that thought of 4,000 weeks in average lifetime. So what am I going to do with mine, right? I spent the majority of my adult life, or a part of my adult life, serving in the United States Marine Corps. I had a great time. I had a great time with the folks I met. You know, I had great leadership lessons. Yes, there were ups and downs, just like any person would encounter. But now, what am I going to do with the time that I have? And I thought to myself, like, is it where do I see myself? Do I see myself sitting at a cubicle for the next 20 years in order to get another retirement? Do I see myself doing something else with that time? Right? I guess that would be what, 2,000 weeks I have left or something to that effect. What do I see
Yep.
myself doing with that 2,000 weeks? You know, and I think I'm going to take a risk on myself and do something that I normally wouldn't do. You know, and I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. I'm going to let it be. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to let it be a little bit of a surprise. But something is a brewing here, right? Something's a brewing, and I feel that I have the freedom right now to be able to do that. Not the freedom, the time, the the resources to be able to do something that I really want to do, that I've been wanting to do for quite some time. But you know, I kind of let things hold me back. Right? I said, no more, Vic, no more. I need to do something else with these 2,000 weeks. So that prompts me to say, like, hey, look, you don't have to stay stuck in something you don't want to be doing. You
Yep.
know, for anybody out there
You never
listening, you don't have to. Yeah, you have a choice.
That's one of the first. That's why I said that book might be really good for you, and also good for anybody out in the audience who's trying to figure out what to do in the next chapter of their life. Like this book, basically, the first part of it, or maybe it was the intro, was basically saying something along those lines. Like there's a lot of things that are holding you back, and most of those things are
Mhm.
yourself.
Yep.
And so, just trying to take more action and have less fear. And it's not really a self-help book per se. It's more like just kind of a prose journey of figuring out how to take action and use your time wisely and do the things that you want to do. Right? He says you can make a choice at any time, but you just have to understand that it's not the choice that's difficult. It's the understanding that you have to deal with one of a few consequences of that choice, right? The good consequences,
Yeah.
the bad consequences, the upsides, the downsides. So the choice isn't really the hard part. The coming to the
Yes.
coming to the realization that you have to like have these trade-offs and these choices are the the results of the choice that you made. That's the difficult part of it. So I think you would really, really love this book. It might actually help you kind of springboard you through your
Yeah.
next.
Absolutely, man. I'm definitely going to check it out. It reminds me of a conversation I had with my son. So I have two sons, one older than the other, right? One bigger than the other. One was almost my height, right? The other one's small, 10 years old. And, you know, as boys do, they fight. And they throw hands, as I say, they throw hands. So the little one is kind of like, he gets a little bit wild, and he starts throwing hands at his older brother. Then his older brother turns around and whacks him, and not in like the mob Italian form, but you know, just gives him a nice smack across the head, and just to shut him up. And the little one starts crying, and I go to his room. I'm like, "Well, what happened?" And he says, "Oh, you know, he hit me." I'm like, "Okay, why did he hit you?" "Well, I don't know." And then the other one, the bigger one, comes out, and he's like, "Oh, because he just punched me or whatever." And I'm just sitting there at the table. Okay. So I approach my younger son and I tell him, "Look, your actions have consequences. You have to understand that. You cannot expect to punch somebody and they don't punch you back, you know? You have to be prepared for that. So if you make the choice anywhere in life to do something like that, to go up and just punch somebody, you better be ready to get hit back because your choices have consequences."
Definitely.
Specifically because I don't want him doing that to somebody at school. Like, "Hey, look, I could just push somebody around," because you're gonna push the wrong person around and you're gonna get punched in the mouth, you know, and then
Eventually.
what do you do? Yeah. So these are just dad life lessons. Just expect, you know, whatever you're gonna give, you know, be ready to receive that. And I recall my dad telling me that when I was younger, but he also said, "Hey, if you're gonna hit somebody, you make sure you hit them so they don't get back up." I'm like, "Okay, well, I mean, I've never had to get to that point really, you know, but that always kind of stayed in the back of my head. Like, and these are things that I try to talk to my kids about. I'm like, "Hey, look, just be a good
Yep.
person. You don't have to go around and hit people. You know, defend yourself, yes, and I'll teach you how to defend yourself, but don't go around and being a fucking bully, man, because nobody likes that crap."
No, nobody does.
It's always from the
Actually,
little one too.
now that you brought that up, I think we can maybe wrap it up with this, but I got an interesting topic to bring up
Yeah.
as far as I know it's one of the things that I used to ask on the podcast, and I still kind of weave it in there in some of the interviews, the regular interviews. I don't know if we ever really get to it on the live interviews, but um, I know a lot of folks that are getting to that 15-year, 20-year mark in their career, maybe 25, 30-year mark in their career, who are planning on transitioning out. There's also this idea maybe that comes to your mind, and that's why I would used to ask the question on a lot of the interviews was, how do you think about legacy? I just had a conversation with my son just last
Mhm.
night, actually kind of late last night, and
Yeah.
he brought up something really interesting that I haven't really thought about from his perspective. I've thought about it from my perspective a little bit, but he said something to me, and I'm just paraphrasing just to keep it brief, but he was like, it's really hard to be able to follow in the shadow that you've projected on the world. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like,
Mm.
yeah, you've been everywhere, you've done all these things, you've got all this life experience, you've seen things, you've done things, you've been involved in a bunch of stuff. He's like, I'm sure it was hard for
Right.
you to be in the shadow of your father. And I was like, I don't really think about it that way. I don't, he was like, I don't know how I can do better than what you've done. And I was like, hold on a second. Like, you don't have to do better than anything that I've done. I was like, first of
Yeah.
all, you're already doing better than anything I've done because you've got your mental health is intact and you're actually like working through things and doing things
Right.
that I never thought of doing at your age. I was too busy screwing around and fucking off my time, to be very blunt about it. But yeah, it got me really thinking about, like, we had a conversation, we talked about it, and um, I was thinking about it really hard, and I was like, well, I don't know if I've actually tried to outdo my parents in any sort of way.
Mhm.
I know I wanted to do my own thing. And so I told him, like, look, whatever you see me as, or however you view me, like, just understand that you can take all that information that I'm giving to you, all the information that you're soaking up, all the information you're asking me about that I never had the chance to ask my father about because he just wasn't open like that.
Yeah.
Take that information, do what you want to do with it, and then just add your personal experience and your personal wants and likes and desires onto it, and do that, and do it to the best of your ability. And that's all you have to do. Like, you don't have to outshine anybody or do anything like that. But I'm curious of your thoughts on that, with maybe with yourself, with your kids, and how that, because I feel like that kind of intertwines into this whole storyline of doing all this military service, getting out, and then doing another career, and maybe some of the motivation behind why we do that, some of the motivation when we get out to do something different and go to these bigger and better things in life, whether it's nonprofits or charity organizations or anything like that, being a
Right.
public speaker, reading a book, any of those kind of
Yeah.
things. I feel like it kind of falls into that narrative. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess my answer stems from um, the way I grew up. Right. It was um, I'm first generation American. Right. My parents immigrated here from Peru. Right. And I always grew up like that. Like seeing the family struggle, seeing not really so much struggle. Like they would kind of hide that from me. I wouldn't see too much of it, but I'd notice things, right? I'm not an idiot, um, especially in my younger years, right? Things got better as I got older, obviously. But, I'd see my dad wake up 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, go to work. He worked at a factory, a plastic factory in Newark, New Jersey. And then he'd go deliver newspapers, or vice versa, deliver newspapers and then go to the factory. I'd barely see him. I'd barely see him. So there weren't many talks like that with my own father, right? There wasn't talks about finances. There wasn't talk about how to be a good man, things like that. I just kind of would notice what he was doing. Okay, the guy's taking care of his family. The guy's he's putting food on the table, right? It's not like I missed many meals or anything like that. He's putting food on the table. He's taking care of my siblings and my mother. He's putting a roof over our heads. Very quiet guy, very, very, doesn't say a lot, to this day. I joke that I can count on really I can count maybe on two hands how many conversations I've had with my father, right? But he's still there. My parents are still married. Um, as he's gotten older, he's gotten more talkative and things like that with us. Um, but yeah, it just watching him and his actions kind of spoke volumes to me. Like, great example, right? This is what a good person, a good man is, a good father figure is. Takes care of business, takes care of his family, continues to work hard. Um, just keeps going no matter what the issues are. So that's something that I try to pass on to my kids. But I'm more talkative with my kids. I really am. I do take time to sit down with them and ask them questions. How's your day? What are you doing? How's life? How's school? Tell me about this project. Tell me about this, that. Um, Not to the point where I'm getting too involved, but I'm leaving it open for them to kind of tell me what they're thinking, right? If they don't want to talk, sometimes they're like, dad, it's all right, and they're very short with it. I just let it be, that's just them. I do realize that, my son is 14, the older one, and he has strong aspirations of going to the Naval Academy. So that's something I put in his head since he was a kid, since he was young. Um, we went to, my brother's in the Navy. He's watched me throughout my Marine Corps career. He got interested in the military early on. We go from air station to air station. He'd look at the planes. We go to air shows. We go to like functions on base. They grew up in that environment. And so I asked him at one point, I'm like, hey, what are you thinking about, for college or something like that? Maybe he was in elementary school, middle school, maybe. And he's like, oh, I don't know, dad. What do you think about me joining the Marines? I was like, maybe do something else. Maybe you don't want to go the Marine Corps route. I know this because I know his personality. I'm like, maybe what about like go the Navy route, do something within the Navy. And then he got interested in that stuff. So then we went to this whole Navy, Naval Academy. They had some kind of presentation here in Yorba Linda up north a little bit. Lo and behold, he got accepted to the summer STEM program, which is awesome. So he's going to go over there this summer. Super excited about that. But that, when just to see the excitement on his face when I read the email and it said congratulations, and I was reading it to him, and to see the excitement on his face kind of it made it all worth it to me. It was like, okay, everything I've been putting into this kid's head about being a good human, about volunteering, about doing the best you can in sports, your community, getting up and standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves, being a friend to most people, all these things that I've seen from my father, seen from good leaders that I'm trying to put into this kid's head is working. It's working. And it was a proud moment for me. It really was. I'm currently working on the younger one. He's got it in his head he wants to go to Harvard, and Lord willing that the GI Bill covers that. So we'll see. But it really stems from my interactions from my father and other leaders that I've seen, that I've had. Just they don't have to say much, but their actions just speak volumes. They just taking care of business, doing what you need to do for the people who count on you, and yeah, sometimes I do talk to my father. I'm like, hey, you never taught me about finances, man. I had to learn the hard way, and yeah, even in the Marine Corps, I didn't have people who took me off to the side and told me, hey, you should probably do this with your TSP. You should probably save this much. It wasn't until like I was 10 years in where I actually got smart on finances. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should just get out of the G fund because I'm making nothing. Or maybe I should save more, and instead of going to the ATM every freaking Friday, pay Friday, and spending money at, nightclubs or whatever. Nobody taught me that stuff. I learned that the hard way. Because I did fall on my face a lot. And I was one of those knuckleheads who had to work or live paycheck to paycheck when I was younger, in my younger Marine Corps days. But that prompts me to talk to my kids about it. Hey, look, man, do you want to have this much by the time you're my age? Well, here's what you do. And it kind of opens their eyes like, oh, wow, I can do that. I'm like, yes, you can. It's just a matter of building on the legacy that you've received, right? Like, here's where I am, and here's what I was taught. Here's what I received. Here's what I'm going to show my kids. And then taking it back to what you mentioned, like how your kid was told you, hey, look, how am I going to amount to what you have created? And that's a talk I've had with my sons as well. Even my daughter's 20. You don't have to amount to anything I do. You don't have to join the military. You don't have to, get these medals or ribbons or, go to different places, deploy to be any better than I was. Just build your own path, dude. As long as you're doing good, I'm happy for you. That's a success. When you build a family, be faithful, take care of your family, your wife, just all these things that will make you a success, and if there's any help that they need, I always tell them, I always reiterate it. I'm like, I'm here for you. I'm here. As long as I'm breathing, I will help guide you where you need to be. Um, I wish I had that more with my own father. I don't recall ever asking him for guidance, not when I was younger, but I just kind of learned through actions, through just watching him interact with folks. But yeah, they don't have to amount to anything that I've done. That's a whole different path that I took. I'm proud of them for whatever they want to do. If that answers your
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, same. That's I try to convey that to my kids as well. It's usually my advice to them, which I don't really like giving advice because depending on who's taking the advice, they may come back later and say, "Oh, well, you gave me this advice and I did what you said, and then it fell apart, and now I'm in this bad situation." Like, I didn't tell you how to execute it. I just told you what I thought was the right
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
So I
So
generally
I like
try
that
not
you
to
said
give
that,
advice. No, go ahead.
because I often, when I'm asked for advice, whether it be like from coworkers, whether it be from my kids, I always try to tell them this is what Vic would do. Here's different courses of actions that you can take, but understand what the consequences are for each action. But here is what Vic would do if he was in that situation. Yeah, I wouldn't walk into a biker bar and punch the guy, the biggest dude there. Here's what Vic would do, just,
I mean,
yeah,
some of
you
it's
got to
general
think this.
advice, right? I think
Yeah,
some
it
of it
is.
applies to everybody, but in a lot of cases, like it just depends who you are. And that's why I try to stress to my kids, like, if you don't do anything else in life, like have fun, put some money away in a few different places for no reason other than just put money away. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
a lot. Just put 5%, 10%. Just put it away
Yeah,
somewhere. Put it in a book. Put it in a book bag. Put it in a savings account. Put it wherever you want to put it. Just put the money away. Stash it away like you're trying to save acorns for winter. And then the third advice to them is like, whatever you do, just don't die. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to die from what you're doing. Like,
yes,
generally speaking,
good advice.
unless you're
Good
in a
advice.
war and you're like, that's a whole different story. But
Right.
that's my three pieces of advice to them, and beyond that, you're right. There's nothing that they need to do to to make me proud or to be better than what I am and go beyond me. Like, you're already doing it. You've already got, you know 60 more years than I do on this planet.
Yeah.
So you've already beat me.
Yeah.
You won the race.
So a conversation I've had with my parents when I was younger was they've always beat it into my head like, hey, look, we are we've come to we ca- they came to this country to give me and my siblings a better life, right? Granted, I was born in the U.S., right? I was born, all my siblings were born in the U.S., but they came here and they gave us a better life. They're like, don't work backwards, build off of that, And they especially would tell me that because I was a knucklehead in high school, man. I was running with some like questionable crowds. I won't say bad crowds, but some questionable crowds. My parents would often talk to me about it. Is that the right people you want to be around? Um, and at the time, I didn't care. I was, rebellious, as any teenager would be. And I thought, this is what I want to do. But as I got older, you start realizing, yeah, my parents didn't come here and give me all this, and my dad didn't work his ass off, and my mom working 2 jobs, my dad working 2 jobs so I can be a freaking knucklehead and do this and get, whatever these grades that I'm getting. It doesn't click until later on. It really doesn't.
No.
And,
Yeah, for
but yeah,
most
that's
cases.
something. Yeah, and that's something I always reflect on, man. I always think about that. Like, yeah, I was just talking to my son about this yesterday. I'm like, what would my life had been like if my parents did not decide to come into the US? If I was
Mm,
raised where they were raised, what would I be doing? I mean, my life would be completely different. I'd probably be, not where I am right now,
yep.
doing what I'm doing now. Who knows what the hell I'm doing? Because of the decisions that they made, I am where I am. And I'm ultimately grateful for all that. So I try to tell
Yeah.
my kids that I'm like, you are the product, you are descendants of immigrants. Everybody is. They
Yeah.
came here looking for a better life. They- You have to build on that. Okay. Do not work backwards. Okay. And my mom would always tell me, do better than we did, you know. And I'm like, yeah, I want to. I want to, and I feel like at a certain level, my siblings and I, all college graduates, and we're doing something with our lives. My younger brother's going to retire from the Navy here in next year, so we're all doing something, and that sits well with them, and that sits well with me. I have a certain happiness inside knowing that I'm fulfilling that. They wanted the American dream for us, and I'm fulfilling that. And then I want my kids to continue on that legacy of fulfilling what their version of the American dream is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I have a half of my mom's side of the family is would be my first generation link as a U.S. citizen. My dad has been here before, but yeah. It's really, it just had me thinking a lot. And then you brought up the conversation you had with your boy about the Naval Academy, and yeah, it's interesting. And I feel like even looking forward, it's thinking about that same kind of question that he asked me, or he had mentioned to me, the statement that he made. It was really an interesting thought experiment, and interesting to have those kind of conversations with your children. I mean, he's 20 something now too. So just the fact that he's thinking about stuff like that at that age.
Yeah, really, man, those conversations are a must, man, because you don't want to be the absent, parent, not absent, but you don't want to be the one who is not involved in your kid's life. Those conversations are definitely a must. And I'll continue to have those. I look forward to being my son's first salute after he finishes the Naval Academy, should everything go the way he wants it to. He would be commissioned as an ensign, which is what an O1, or O1, yeah, and or O2, right? O2, and yeah, whatever, just an officer, right? And I was a chief warrant officer, so obviously, like the regular commissioned officers would outrank the chief warrant officer. So I look forward to being his first salute. I really do. And I hope he does go that route. And I'm doing everything in my power to help him in the choices he makes. I'm not doing it for him. And I told him I'm not going to do anything for him. I'm going to let him figure things out on his own. If he needs a ride somewhere, yeah, there you go, Navy Cop 01. If he needs a ride somewhere, I'll give him a ride somewhere. But hey, look, if I'm not able to get off work in time, or if I'm doing something else and I cannot take him, I fully expect him to get on his bike and go over there, not to say, hey, I didn't have a ride. Go ride a mile to practice, whatever it is. Make sure you're there. I'm not going to do everything for him. And he knows that. So I just had to put it in his head before he started playing the blame game. I couldn't go, Dad, because you couldn't take me. That's the wrong answer, man. Wrong answer. Oh man, yeah. Thanks for correcting me in there, Navy Cop. It's only been a year, man. I'm like 02, 01, 01. I guess one becomes before two, right? So that would make sense. All right, man. Hey, great episode, dude. I always love these talks with you, John. Navy Cop, you've been very involved. So thank you for that. We do appreciate the commentary and your insight as well. We are hitting a lot of, or accepting a lot of folks recently in the military retirement group. I think I just approved like 30 people in the last week. I don't know how the algorithm works. It's like once people start finding the group, it bounces on, or it comes on more people's walls, Facebook walls or something like that, or Facebook pages. But yeah, it's just been growing. It's been growing. So I have like 8 more to approve here. I'm getting the little bell is showing a notification on my Facebook here. So looking forward to that. The military retirement group on Facebook. A lot of good information on there from veterans or for veterans and military retirees, or soon to be military retirees. A lot of good information on the files tab. I just had somebody reach out to me directly on Facebook Messenger asking me about tax information, and asking me about what life is like living in Southern California, because they're looking to stay here in Southern California or move here.
Yeah.
asking questions about their BDD, things like that. And I'm happy to answer questions and all that. So, and please, if you're a veteran, if you're coming up on your military retirement, or you are a military retiree, please feel free to join the military retirement group. Let me see. We're also growing on the Military Retirement Podcast YouTube channel. That thing is going well. We're going to be doing a couple little changes on there with bringing up our live videos into regular videos. So that's going to be fun. Hopefully I have a little bit more time to get involved and start doing that. So that's going to happen pretty soon, hopefully. Let me see. The Green Logbook just hit 3,000 subs on the Green Logbook. So that is a nice little milestone there.
Nice.
And what else do we got, man? What else is going on?
Just added the kick.com. I actually connected up once I got online here today. I saw it wasn't connected up, and I know it's because it's been acting crazy the last couple of times I tried to test it out. I got that up running the other day. So I did a live stream test. So if you saw, I don't think I streamed it anywhere else except for there, but kick.com is a streaming platform, kind of like Twitch, but a little bit different. So I'm going to try to broaden the horizon, meet people where they are, because I know not everybody's on YouTube, not everybody's on Facebook, not everybody's on LinkedIn. I just want to kind of expand that reach out, because if we're streaming live and we can stream to multiple places, like why not stream to as many places as we possibly can to reach the broadest amount of veterans that we can reach. So that we might set up another streaming platform, but kick.com is live. And maybe that'll also help out with the back end of like helping to pay for some of this stuff. We're going to see, doing some experimenting with it now, but you can find our catalog of videos starting from here forward on there as well. If you're ever looking for them, if you're on kick.com, you can find us on there as well.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think as soon as we're eligible to, on the YouTube channel, we can start making memberships and putting out just member only content for folks, things that you need to know as a veteran, as a military retiree. So be on the lookout for that. As soon as we become eligible for that, it is going to be available to all folks. Let's see.
Should be in about, I would guess, in about a week, maybe a week and a half. Most.
Hell to the yeah.
For the memberships and the supers and stuff like that. And shopping.
What are we going to sell?
If you want this cool sticker, I think I've got a spot set up where you can get it. I'll have to look. I'm pretty sure it's linked somewhere, but if not, and you're looking for stickers, if you want a t-shirt, if you've got some ideas for some merch, let us know.
Oh yeah, come up.
I know
with
people get tired of seeing me in my military retirement podcast t-shirt every single day. So,
oh man, no. So yeah, all good. Thanks for sticking with us. We look forward to coming out with some good content, and I think we have some more guests coming up in the next few weeks. People have been reaching out to us on LinkedIn, on Facebook as well. Just shooting us their bio, reaching out for potential guest spots. So we got a few lined up already. Looking forward to talking to these folks and getting some good information out there for the masses. Always a good time to talk to you, John, and all the folks listen to us. Navy Cop, thanks for commenting. Really appreciate you. Thank you all for sticking around. It's been great.
Appreciate it, everybody. Thanks, and we will see you next week.
Out here.